Update on the Tommy Robinson situation, and we've got a Friday night news dump. I told you yesterday that I would be watching for the Friday night news dump, and did they do a Friday night news dump? Oh, did they ever? Of course. Trudeau's appointing senators on the Friday of a long weekend, right? Just any generic long weekend, of course. So Loblaws, there's lots to get to. Let's get to it. First, happy Canada Day long weekend. I hope you're enjoying it. And Monday you get off, so that's great. And Candace Malcolm says, happy long weekend, y'all. Loblaws flyer says, happy long weekend. They're not talking about Canada Day. Don't say the bad word, right? Justin Trudeau doesn't like that. And Candace Malcolm continues, Liberals erased Dominion Day, which could be construed as religious or pro-empire, and replaced it with the innocuous and inoffensive Canada Day. Apparently Canada Day is now too offensive for the woke libs in corporate Canada, so long weekend it is. And it's not good. It's not good. Pointing it out and wish everybody a hearty Merry Christmas and Happy Canada Day, right? At the appropriate times, right? Like, don't wish people Merry Christmas now because that would be weird. Contrarian says Trudeau just appointed another lifelong Liberal to the Senate. He now has appointed 82 of 105, or 78% of the Senate. Do Canadians understand what this means? He was also a member of the International Association of French-Speaking Parliamentarians and interim leader of the Liberal Party of New Brunswick. So this guy is a true blue Kool-Aid drinking believer, okay? He is absolutely going to do what Trudeau wants. And if you have full control of the Senate, does it matter who runs the House of Commons? Before any bill can receive royal assent, it has to go through the Senate. And if 78% are Trudeau-appointed lapdogs, do you think that's going to be successful? Do you think the Conservatives are going to be successful in getting their legislative calendar through? I mean, maybe. Glenn says it must be Friday at 4 p.m. Justin Trudeau appoints New Brunswick Liberal to the Senate. So there you go. There's some information about that. The Prime Minister's news release there. So Friday night news dump, check. Long weekend, Friday night news dump, check. Right? Yep, that's what's going on. Let's talk about the Liberals, because the whole hubbub is Stephen Guilbeault's standing around Via Rail business lounges sharing Liberal insider secrets with whoever's listening. And whoever's listening happen to be journalists. So that's interesting. Stephen Taylor says, in a private conversation publicly overheard, Stephen Guilbeault said that Chrystia Freeland could be the next prime minister when Justin Trudeau steps down. The Liberals are so cooked. Remember Kim Campbell? I mean, that could happen, right? That could definitely happen. Here's Stephen Guilbeault saying, oh no, please see my statement on the recent Toronto Star piece. He's reaffirming his allegiance to Justin Trudeau. He says, I ran to be a member of Parliament in 2019 because I believe in the Liberal Party and the Prime Minister's tireless and progressive leadership. I remain as convinced now as I was then that Prime Minister and the Liberal Party of Canada are the best positioned to deliver the change the Canadians elected us to deliver during the last election. One-sided conversations taken out of context do not reflect the open and honest exchanges that I routinely have with my caucus colleagues. As I have said publicly many times, Prime Minister Trudeau has my full support and will continue to work to support Canadians, and I will continue to work to support Canadians. But also, he said, Chrystia Freeland could totally take over for Justin Trudeau. So, I mean, he said both of those things, all of those things. He said that. Here is other ministers or former ministers talking about this. Catherine McKenna, where's the $600 billion? Catherine McKenna is a former Trudeau minister saying Liberals need a new leader. McKenna is the first person who served in Trudeau's cabinet to call on him to quit. So that's interesting. So we've got former ministers, we've got current MPs and cabinet members talking about how Justin Trudeau, he could be gone, and Chrystia Freeland could be in charge soon, right? Could be. Feels like Suits when a new partner was taking over, or they were trying to freeze out an old partner or something to that effect. No, just a little bit of those feelings. National Post is reporting number of former federal Liberal ministers, ex-BC Premier, call for Trudeau to resign. So there's a big chorus of people saying, get out of here, Trudeau. We don't like you. Jagmeet Singh, according to Holly Doan, is done with Trudeau. Canadians are done with Trudeau, says Jagmeet Singh. But the NDP leader says he'll stick to the terms of the supply and confidence agreement that would keep Justin Trudeau in office until June 30th, 2025. So tomorrow is my birthday, and June 30th, 2025 is also my birthday. So that would be a happy birthday then, but I'd prefer sooner than later. I'd prefer Justin Trudeau to be gone in the short term. But Holly Doan talking about Jagmeet Singh, recognizing that Canadians are sick and tired of Justin Trudeau, but still supporting him anyway. That's odd, don't you think, right? If you were trying to, I don't know, represent the will of the majority of Canadians, wouldn't you think that you'd stop your supply and confidence agreement? Pierre Poilievre is responding to this, and he's responding to the National Post thing. And Pierre Poilievre says, according to Jagmeet Singh, Canadians are done with Trudeau, and except if you're waiting to qualify for a pension. So sell out Singh. So all of the Conservatives are going hard against Jagmeet Singh. So again, they're responding to the National Post headline. Jagmeet Singh says Toronto by-election shows voters are done with Trudeau. Doesn't address the NDP drop. That's another aspect of this that I haven't really talked about. The NDP really had a poor showing as well. And Jagmeet Singh hasn't talked about that. He's stayed very, very focused on the Liberals, not talking about how poorly the NDP did. So that's interesting. Larry Brock says, voters are done with you too, Jagmeet, or sellout Singh, and your coalition. Time for a carbon tax election. So the Conservatives are in full-blown campaign mode, and I think they're going to be in this mode until we get an election. They're going to try and force an election. They're going to try branding like this, and this is absolutely branding. They've got a hashtag. They want the hashtag to trend. Both Pierre Poilievre and Larry Brock and other cabinet members, etc., are using this language, this type of stuff to talk to Jagmeet Singh. I find it interesting that he's not tagged in this because you want to kind of pressure him, right? He's not tagged, so that's interesting. But otherwise, it's coordinated, well thought out, and they're using this as a vehicle to campaign with, right? And they're doing it before the election is called because the election is inevitable. It's within a year and a bit, right? Like October 2025, which, 16 months or something like that? Not much. Blink of an eye. It's going to go faster than you think. Trust me, 2018 was just a minute ago, I swear. Gov.exe says the Prime Minister travels to Brampton in a 12-car motorcade where he's met with fierce resistance from people who are yelling, Justin Trudeau, you can't hide. We charge you with genocide. So there you go. It's very rhymey. So here we go. So pro-Palestinian protesters are the ones leading these calls, right? Very interesting. We charge you with genocide, obviously referring to the Gaza, Israel conflict, et cetera, et cetera. Is that legitimate? Is that Canadians acting out, or is this paid for protests, et cetera, et cetera? I think there were more than one group. Like you could see another group in the background with Canadian flags at the beginning of this here. But the video wasn't taken from there. So it's interesting. I think there's a little bit of both. But we'll see how it all shapes up. And they use those protests, the pro-Palestinian protests, to justify all sorts of different laws, responses, reactions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and say, we're keeping you safe. They're not keeping us safe. CTV News says, Trudeau Liberals under siege. Using the term under siege is very notable in the headline. Across the country, with Conservatives cracking red fortresses like Toronto and Vancouver. There's lots of war language here. Under siege, fortresses, in quotes, right? Ooh. Hot on the heels of the Conservatives' stunning by-election victory in the riding of Toronto-St. Paul, new seat projection data from Nanos Research shows ridings considered previously safe for the Liberals are increasingly up for grabs. On the latest episode of CTV News, Nanos Research Chair Nick Nanos said the latest numbers point to a difficult time if you're a Liberal. What we're seeing is the Liberal fortress Toronto basically under siege. Nano said, so maybe Toronto-St. Paul is the canary in the coal mine. Yes. There are other canaries in the coal mine that are dead. Like dead as a doornail, and have been so much before Toronto-St. Paul. So yeah, it's interesting, but they're really not interested in hearing from the constituents, and they don't seem worried about it either. Like they seem to know something that we don't. Like the Democrats, they don't seem worried that Joe Biden's a potato. Like, not at all. I mean, now they kind of seem worried because it was undeniable that he was not present whatsoever during that debate. And so now they're kind of worried a little bit not because they're abusing an elderly man, but because they're not sure that the potato can win an election. So now there's a little bit of panic, but we'll see. I've heard that it's too late to replace him anyway, but we'll talk about Joe Biden in a few minutes. Let's carry on. Sarah says, Jagmeet Singh saying Canada is done with Justin Trudeau while still tying himself to Trudeau shows you how useless the NDP is. Where are the backbenchers? If Jagmeet Singh didn't have 20 odd backbenchers supporting him, he wouldn't have anything, right? Where are the backbenchers defecting to independent to vote this government down, right? Like, you don't even have to join the Conservatives. You could just say, I'm not going to sit with the NDP anymore. And on the next confidence vote, I'm not voting with you at all. So you can take your supply and confidence deal and put it where the sun don't shine, right? Ryan says Trudeau's being met with people yelling shame as he leaves his Brampton fundraiser last night. So these are Canadian flags, but it still could be pro-Palestinian protesters. I'm not sure, right? I think this is maybe the same event from a different camera angle. Yeah, you can see the Palestinian protester right there. And the F Trudeau flags interchangeably. So, man, I don't know. They're like chameleons, right? They're doing this on purpose. Here's global news. 7 in 10 Canadians say they feel the country is broken. And they use this. Global News and Ipsos use this to justify, oh, well, I guess we shouldn't really do that Canada Day thing. Here's the article. Canada Day is around the corner. Yeah. But many Canadians are not necessarily in a mood to celebrate the state of the country, a new poll suggests. Well, that's true. I mean, it would be a celebration when Trudeau is gone, but the globalists have to be gone. We got to get rid of this communist government. Ipsos polling done exclusively for Global shows 70% of Canadians agree that Canada is broken, a charge Conservative leader Poilievre repeatedly makes. He's captured a mood. It's not something that Pierre Poilievre has created. He's simply identifying the conditions that he's seeing out in the Canadian public and calling it out and labeling it, Ipsos Public Affairs CEO said. Ipsos surveyed 1,000 Canadians, 1,001 to be exact, between June 12th and 14th, and found feelings of pessimism were highest among Canadians between ages 18 and 34 because they still live with their parents. With 78% holding the view the country needs fixing. Yeah, well, yeah, because when I was 18, I could move out on my own. Like, I moved out on my own at 17. So there you go. And if you're stuck in a situation where there's any kind of conflict there, you can't get out on your own, like, that can feel very, that can chafe, right? That can be brutal. But and if the longer you delay starting your family, et cetera, the more difficult it is to, get yourself set up, et cetera, et cetera. So it is quite insidious what is happening with this economy, and it seems purposeful. It doesn't seem like an accident. It seems like they're doing it on purpose. We've got to talk about elections. So the Liberals are talking about leadership races and replacing Justin Trudeau, even though publicly most of the time they say, no, we're not doing that at all. Sure. But the electioneering is happening. The Conservatives are running election-style slogan campaigns, and all sorts of other tests of different catchphrases, different terms, all of that stuff. They're doing all that kind of stuff. Now, to be fair, the Liberals use the summer months to fly around the country, going into different constituencies, doing announcements, spending announcements, and things like that. And that often looks like campaigning as well on the taxpayer dime. And then, boom, they'll call it an election. And they've been campaigning for the whole summer. And then they have an election in September, and then they campaign again. And that bolsters the campaign and draws it out, right? So everybody's guilty of these dirty tricks. They do it all the time. But the Liberals are in campaign mode. Yesterday, I guess, was 20 years in the House of Commons for Pierre Poilievre, and the Liberal Party is celebrating. So that's nice. I mean, it's nice to do that. And Liberals say, we just found the invitation for Pierre Poilievre's 20th anniversary party. It's going to be a pass for us. So it says Pierre Poilievre's 20th anniversary soiree. Guest list. At the top of the guest list is Alex Jones, and then Diagolon, the people who made jokes about raping his wife. So that's weird, like that he would invite them to a party. So, right? Anyway, conspiracy theorists of all kinds. Oh, I can't wait for my letter in the mail. Freedom Convoy, grocery lobbyists, the American far right, the gun lobby, big oil executives, anti-abortion caucus. Oh, those anti-abortionists, man, they know how to party. Anyone wearing a straight pride shirt. Not welcome. The woke mainstream media, people who believe in climate change. This is a good guest list. I'd go to that party. I just think it's hilarious because it's so weak. It's so weak. That's all they've got? Like, this is the best your PR team came up with, guys? That's a miss. Larry Brock is pointing this out because, like, here's some criminality in the upper echelon of the Liberal caucus, right? Larry Brock says Trudeau's minister Randy Balsano is now accused of posing as a fake journalist, claiming to work for 2 media outlets, which he never did. Randy receives payment from his lobbying company and is accused of conducting business for his shady pandemic company, all while in cabinet. What else is Randy Balsano covering up? Yeah, I mean, like, that's good campaigning, if you ask me. Hey, these Liberals appear to be criminals. Look at this criminal activity they're doing. Rather than, hey, do you want to go to a party with Diagolon and Alex Jones? It's just so childish. It's ridiculous. It makes me laugh because it's so brutal. It's so brutal. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. It's like watching an episode of Saved by the Bell where Zach comes up with a scheme and they execute the scheme and it's like embarrassingly bad. Or the counter scheme is embarrassingly bad. It's all bad because it's high school. It seems high school level. It's terrible. Pierre Poilievre says, breaking, Trudeau's secretly working to dump incompetent finance minister Freeland after her disastrous budget and bring in carbon tax Carney. So there you go. Branding, right? Calling him names, right? Sellout Singh, carbon tax Carney. They're taking that from Trump, probably. But Trump is masterful with his nicknames. I mean, beggars can't be choosers, right? Nobody else does this in Canadian politics. So it's low-hanging fruit almost, because why not brand people? And it works. So Alitha Raj is reporting Mark Carney in talks with Trudeau about joining the team as finance minister. That's funny. It's funny because Chrystia Freeland's awful. Mr. Speaker, she's awful. She's terrible. And she's done a terrible, awful job. Here's another example of a terrible, awful job that Chrystia Freeland's done. Blog TO 16 hours ago is reporting Canadians are going bankrupt at a startling rate not seen in years. I mean, like, if you're the finance minister and you're like, I wonder how things are going, and you open that up, you're like, oh, poop, right? Like, because like things are bad. Why? Because she can't do her job. Why? Because she's not trained as a finance minister. Because she's a reporter. The country's ongoing cost of living crisis is pushing Canadians deeper into debt as the rate of insolvencies has reached the highest it's been in years. That's according to the latest Canadian Association of Insolvency and Restructuring Professionals, CARP, report. Consumer insolvencies increased by 11.3% in May compared to the same month last year, according to the latest data from the Office of the Superintendent of Bankruptcy, OSP. The number of personal filings reached 12,195, which is the highest monthly volume seen since October 2019 before the pandemic. This breaks down to an average of 393 filings by Canadians per day. In a statement, Andre Bould, CARP chairperson, said that despite June's decline in interest rates, the high cost of living and high cost of service debt continue to strain budgets. In the 12-month period that ended May 24, there was a 17.9% increase in consumer insolvency filings compared to the 12 months ending in May 23. That's bad. That's bad. Like a 20%, 1 in 5? That's eye-wateringly high. Like, that's not good at all, right? What does that mean? What's the impact of that on jobs, on all sorts of stuff, right? And it doesn't look good. PR Sam says the Cbdc trial. Now, these are the key points. Expiry date of 6 months, geofencing in a 4-kilometer radius. This isn't a conspiracy theory. CBDCs are coming, and it's as bad as we thought. The only solution I see is Bitcoin and strengthening local communities. So that'll be very, very interesting to see how that works. This is why I call CBDC fiat on steroids, says Ifran. And she says, see the case of Thailand. They're using CBDC as an excuse for economic stimulus, creating billions of fresh fiat money out of nothing as part of the country's fiscal policy to airdrop free CBDC for 50 million low-income earners in a very altruistic socialist move. Injecting more toxic fiat into the system does not change the system. It feeds the beast. CBDC is fiat on steroids. So they want it to... Well, they're piloting it now, and the pilot started in September of 23, and they have geofencing and they have expiring currency, and that's concerning for people, right? Like, that's a very concerning thing. People don't like that idea. I don't like that idea. But they're just like the COVID restrictions kind of were rolled out. Not everybody liked the idea, but it went ahead anyway. That's how they're trying to push this forward. It's really... Holly Doan is reporting thread on a home equity tax, and Paul shares this. And he says the Canadian Prime Minister Trudeau attended a private town hall this past Tuesday in Vancouver, per press release on Friday. The event was not on his official itinerary. Town hall host was UBC professor who in the past advocated for a tax on sale of principal residences. Principal residence is the house you live in. Up till now, you don't pay tax on the sale of that house. And now Justin Trudeau seems to want to explore that. Prime Minister Trudeau sat down with Generation Squeeze founder Dr. Paul Kershaw on June 25th in Vancouver for a private town hall about generational fairness and the concerns of Canada's biggest voting bloc. If we're going to talk about generational fairness for every generation, we're going to have to actually try and rebalance things a little bit. And when newspapers use the ... they can put anything in there. I used to say this a lot, but I've stopped saying it, but I'll remind people because I haven't said it in a while. But in the middle of this sentence, it says, if we're going to talk about fairness for every generation, we're going to have to actually try and ... rebalance things a little bit. During that ... you could say anything. You could say a whole bunch of other stuff and not mention it and just be like, oh yeah, like yada yada yada, right? Like went over last night, yada yada, and we had a great breakfast this morning, right? Like you yadded over, right? So there's important things that you're missing there, and that's on purpose. So very, very interesting to note. The home equity tax idea is not popular. If you thought capital gains was a problem, this is a bigger problem. Much more. Okay, here's further via press release issued by the host of the Vancouver private town hall where Trudeau attended. Much more sophisticated political conversation about what's going on in our finances than is often enabled by social media, bumper stickers, and political strategies designed to amplify fear or anger. Drastic changes in budgeting projections are very difficult, and it's a shame to see that the largest housing investment in Canada's history is the size of a mole by comparison with the scale of new money earmarked for today's retirees. So a little tax would be fair. Fully detached home from $16,000. What year was this? Hold on, I have to see what year this was. I can't figure out what year this is, but it is in downtown Toronto. Like it says Bayview to Finch to Leslie, and then you're there at Bel Air. And so yeah, $16,745 for a 2-story house with an attached garage, the Crestwood. Sounds real nice. $16,000. So we've been lied to through city councilors, all sorts of people taking advantage of taxes that can be layered on house building, and then that prevents them from having to raise taxes in the city on the citizens, so property taxes and things like that. So you get nice things, and the people paying for it are the people buying houses. And until Justin Trudeau screwed up the immigration system, nobody really noticed any of this. But now that Justin Trudeau's screwed up the immigration system to the degree where it's screwed up housing prices, now people are paying attention to these things. And it's very, very concerning. Now that I know the details, it's very concerning. And I mean, it's hard to communicate all this because it's complicated, right? But a lot of people don't pay attention to the details. And they just go, ho-hum, I guess houses that used to cost $16,000 cost $500,000 now. That makes sense. It makes perfect sense. Sure. What? How? The journal, I make $50,000. So yeah, $500,000 house makes perfect sense. What? Like that's crazy town. Journalist says, let's talk about traders. And this is Harjit Sajjan focused, not Chinese, anything, any infiltration in our government focused. This is just Harjit Sajjan. Although this is infiltration of a different kind, Indian infiltration, Sikh infiltration, if you can believe it. Journalist says, the Globe and Mail story on Harjit Sajjan is worse than it seems. The 225 Afghan Sikhs that he was trying to rescue were already being rescued by the Indian government. By giving them false hope of getting Canadian residency, the Afghan Sikhs missed the flights to India. Yikes. So like caused more problems than they solved, right? Did Harjit Sajjan do this to show one-upmanship over Modi instead of just coordinating with India over the rescue operation? Did his biases as an anti-India Khalistani jeopardize the interest of Canadians and Afghan Sikhs he claimed to worry about? Maybe. Mocha's looking at this, and this is in the tradition of green text on 4chan, so I think this is hilariously edited, but I don't know that anybody else will get the joke. But Mocha, hats off to you, sir. You do good work. Mocha says, B. Defense Minister Harjit Sajjan. Your father, Kurdan Sajjan, is an executive of the World Sikh Organization, the top umbrella organization of all Sikh organizations in Canada. Your sister, Armit Kaur, is married to Harjinder Singh Sandhu, the son of the WSO president, Jayan Singh Sandhu, who was interrogated by the RCMP Disaster Task Force after the 1985 Air India bombing. Hired the WSO's executive, Prem Vinning's son, Harjit Vinning, as a senior special assistant, while Armit Sohi hires the other son as an assistant. A Canadian Sikh group gives you your marching orders to save non-Canadian Sikhs during the Taliban takeover in Afghanistan, take away military resources from Canadian priorities, and fail to rescue the Sikhs anyway. Canadian public finds out and is pissed. Play the just because of my turban card, act like we don't know your strong family ties to the WSO. Welcome to Canada-istan. It's very interesting. The stuff that he's putting together and like piecing together with sources and like, I think pretty good, legitimate sources. He's got people on camera explaining how all this works, people on the inside of this stuff explaining how it works. I think it's legitimate reporting. I don't think any major media has picked up his reporting, including, I don't think Rebel's talked about it. Like I don't know if Mocha worked for Rebel and then left, or if he just decided to start his own thing, like, and just started it. Either way, good work for him. It's very interesting what people ignore, I find, right? Very interesting indeed. Brittany says, look what this Conservative candidate wrote, now deleted. And he says, the Globe and Mail is racist, vile, and wrong for setting Canadian values against national interests. Canadian leaders, especially Minister Sajjan, had a duty to protect both, and he did just that. And this is Harjit Singh Gill saying that. So interesting, don't you think? I think so. There's interesting things happening. There's so many people jumping in on this whole thing, talking about all of this stuff. It's just notable. It raises my eyebrows. I think to myself, what's up with that? And then when Mocha ties it all together with the World Sikh Organization and the direct ties Sajjan has to that organization and how he could potentially get orders from that organization, I have concerns. There are things that I think, wow, that's really interesting. Is anybody looking into that? And I realize that no, nobody's looking into that. No, they're not. Maybe Mocha. Mocha's looking into it. But other than that, good luck, Mocha. Hello, everyone. Thanks very much for watching. This is just a short version of a longer show. If you'd like to get the whole show, you can go over to CanadaPoly.com and sign up for a subscription. Just look in the drop-down tab for Shop and Donate and look for subscriptions, and you'll get immediate access to the full show. Love to see you. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful